the greatest draw ever if you want to play that full-on Face Hunter. And one thing that is going to be a bit of a pain for him to deal with is the Maelstrom Portal that's in the hand of Jambre right now. But the Alley Cat may well come down regardless.
Yeah, notice there he's got the Crawler as well, so he was ready for Pirates, even though he banned the Warrior, so he may have been ready for Rogue, for instance. Or maybe he's playing his own Pirate, that'd be unusual. I don't think that's going to happen.
Now, I think I would probably play the Corsair here, just because even if this Hunter deck does run Eagle Horn Bow,
right,
I think just getting patches on board this early, once you've seen the Alley Cat go down, you're like, okay, he wants to fight for board control. Let's make sure that I have the minions available to guarantee that I'm the one in charge.
Nom, says the Crawler.
That's what they usually say. But Flame Tongue Totem in hand is going to be somewhat of an answer to that. It does mean that you have to trade basically your whole hand in, though. Or
yeah,
your whole
pretty
board.
rough here for Jambre, and again, Helix's tech working out pretty well so far. And his future turn's looking okay, although his turn 4 into Coin Warden might not be enough spam on the board. But currently, Jambre is the one who is attacking. Oh, and adapting a 3-4 is a pretty good thing to be doing. This is a difficult decision now because you want to get that Rat Pack out, but also you can't refuse adapting a 3-4. Almost all of the options are fantastic here.
Wind Fury would be amazing right here. 3 attack is also pretty good. Can't be targeted by spells and hero powers. Also pretty good. And then there's always just make it a taunt so that he has to deal with it.
Yeah, it's 3 decent options, but he would have preferred Wind Fury, as you say, or maybe give it +3 health. I imagine have a 3-7 against this army of not very good minions. So he'll be a little bit disappointed, and it's one of the things that I think is making Adapt so skillful is picking the best of a mediocre bunch. When you're sitting there going, oh, I'm just going to get my Wind Fury, oh, what's all this? And actually, it's still decent options, but you've got to get your thoughts in order and think, right, which is the best of these? And here's going with Untargetable.
Now, there are some pretty decent available plays for Jambre right now if he wants to try and regain board control. Looking for the Wrath of Air there, he's not quite going to find it. Maelstrom Portal would be available. He can take control of the board right now with the Maelstrom Portal, but he's going to go with the Flame Tongue Totem and look for trades instead.
Yeah, this is interesting because they're both playing aggressively, but I think Helix is the one who needs to be attacking, and Jambre's identified that because he's going to be able to play into the Primal Lord in a few turns' time, and also his Fire Ellie is as big as anything that Helix will have apart from Savannah Highmane and the Hydra.
Yeah, well, depending if he's running the Hydra, I'd assume that he is going to be running that Bittertide Hydra, the 5-mana 8/8 that we've seen so many times across tonight already.
Yeah, it fits your curve really nicely. 5's a bit awkward for Hunter. There's Tundra Rhino, there's the Warden, and then there's the Hydra. So Hydra tends to fit in, but with him playing the Wardens, maybe he doesn't run them both.
Jade Lightning's certainly a pretty nice find on this one. We'll be able to trade in his totem just to finish that minion off, keep his totem alive, and actually starting to build a bit of a board that's awkward for a Hunter to deal with, especially if he's not running any traps. I wouldn't expect him to be running things like an explosive trap in this very aggressive version of a Hunter deck. So actually Jambre can keep this board relatively safe, and with the Fire Elemental for next turn, he should be able to deal with the majority of things that are going to come down on turn 5 from Hunter. Yeah,
nothing here works very well because of this Maelstrom Portal. You want to get the Rats down, you want to get the Alley Cats down, you want to play your Jaw McCaw down, which is probably what he plays first to see if he can pick up a nice 4-drop. Because he knows that he's going to get blown out by AoE here if he's not careful, so I think he might try and pick something up. This thing does swing games from time to time.
It looks like he is just going to try and fill the board with these death rattles that, as and when they do die, they're going to have to still be dealt with. They don't just go away completely. Right. Tar Creeper, though, actually feels like a pretty good option. Obviously, you do want to just drop the Fire Elemental, because it's turn 6 and it fills your curve and it's just a big beefy minion. But at the same time, the Tar Creeper, just to block any input is always going to be nice.
Yeah, I feel that he's just going to deal with these and whip out the Maelstrom Portal, deal with nearly everything, then drop the Creeper, and he'll have such a big board against very, very little. that there won't be many comeback mechanisms, but High Main could be one of those. High Main is something that will still keep Helix in with a chance here.
That is a nice little find off the Maelstrom portal as well, because when that's dealt with, it will buff something else up on top of everything else. And the Tar Creeper next to the Flame Tongue Totem means that it's an even more difficult taunt to deal with.
It definitely is, but as we said earlier, it does not win you the game on the spot. It slows the game down, but it doesn't start coming in for much damage, although it will be coming in for 3 next to a Flame Tongue. And the double High Main options here, on top of a Jambre core that could pick up another big minion, maybe another High Main or a Dread or something, that could still give Helix a chance here, depending what comes from that Jambre core and what comes off the top of his deck. These big minions are going to be a nuisance for Jambre to deal with.
Yeah, but the Fire Elemental onto Savannah this turn, you can then trade in your Zealot, you can trade your 1-1 into the 3-1, and kind of just ignore the Hyenas.
Yep.
And then next turn, you're looking at that Primal Lord, you're looking at getting a massive meaty minion down onto the board, and not only that, you get that Elemental Invocation, sorry.
Invocation.
We'll see what effect he will end up going for, but actually we'll trade into one of the Hyenas. I get there was the option to avoid them, but I suppose
this is a strong spot he's in here. Look.
Yeah.
He's not taking a single point of damage to the face right now either, and he's expecting the Primal Lord to be able to deal with most things going on, but Helix Fossil's definitely not completely dead in this one, despite the fact he's taking a whole chunk. Let's see what comes from this. This could swing the game.
Giant Wasp.
It's
okay. Poisonous is pretty good, especially when there's these big minions on board. It's just there's a Tar Creeper in the way.
Yeah, and you're dead to Lightning Storm a lot of the time. Well, the Wasp's kind of going to do things here. Maybe that's his way back in. It's really difficult. You just want to slam that High Main, but so many things just deal with a High Main. Like Hex on it would lose you the game instantly. Maybe he goes for the Wasp and just jams all the other cards and hopes for the best. And that might actually work out if he does, because there is no AoE in the hand of Jambre. I think Helix is resigned to going all in here. He looks like he's a man who knows he's up against it. Take a chance here and he will possibly still be in this game. And he's going to go all in, take the chance and see, hey, if you've got Lightning Storm, I've lost. If you haven't got Lightning Storm, I haven't. But we can see the power of the Primal Lord.
Yeah, first of all, you've got the Primal Lord that can just wipe the board immediately with that 3 damage to all minions. He is going to go for that one, unsurprisingly here. But also, just bear in mind, there is, what, 13 damage on board right here? Yeah. Or 12 damage, sorry. That's a terrifying amount to just be slamming into face. And now, looking at lethal on board, there's not a whole lot that Helix can do about that one. He is going to concede this one. That means Jambre goes and knocks it back up to 1 apiece. We have a series on our hands.
1 game all, and the champion is not going down without a fight.
No, he's certainly not. The champion, as you say, is not going to be dropping just yet. Helix Fossil, he still has his work cut out if he wants to win out this series, but he's definitely been impressing me with his decisions in these games so far. Definitely a player that you need to be looking out for. I mean, the decisions on whether or not to just drop the High Main in that game specifically.
Right. I mean,
unfortunate that he did fall into AoE, but...
So that's a play where a beginner will make that play and lose because they're bad and they don't know what the cards in the game do and stuff like that. And then a better player will go, I'm not going to walk into your invocation. I'm going to tiptoe around and play my High Main. And they'll just lose because Jambre would have just gone smash you in the face, smash you in the face. And then you go to the next level game where he's like, okay, I can't beat either of these 2 options, but I can beat the option where you don't have the AoE. I'm going to go all in and shut my eyes. And that's a sign of a good player.
So now, the first Warlock of the day. We're going to see the Firefly in hand, and it looks like a bit of a Zoo lock coming on through here. I didn't see whether there was any discard before he mulliganed that one. I didn't quite catch what.
There was a Soulfire, but that doesn't tell us anything of use particularly. You're looking for the Melkazars in, but even the most sort of non-discard of Zoos these days contain a fair amount of discard. The discard cards are just so powerful now. There was also a Pterodax, which is a card that has come out with Ongoro, 4/4, double adapt, but it eats one of your minions. You're usually looking to eat a possessed villager or
a Devil Saw Egg.
Or a Devil Saw Egg. Makes a 5/5 and a huge minion on the same turn.
Yeah, and it's a 3 mana into 4 mana combo as well,
Right.
so it fits your curve very nicely, and you end up with an adapted or double adapted 4/4 as well as a 5/5 on the board if they can't deal with it immediately. So
That would be a 7/7 for 4. You'd never have one of those.
no, never. That would be ridiculous. There's no way that would be put into the game.
Not the discard he was looking for. That's one of his better cards. But going wide isn't too bad here against this deck. Jambre doing the Murloc dance, and maybe the War Leader just starts to force enough damage through. I think Helix Fossil's next couple of draws are going to be massively important here.
Well, Redemption is going to be picked, and Jambre, definitely a player that really favours that Redemption. We see him pick that up fairly often when it's in the options available to him. War Leader available for this next turn as well, and there's no immediate way for Helix to deal with this 2/2 on the board, so that will become a 4/3 for the next turn.
I'll tell you one card you wouldn't want to play in around now, and that's a card that makes everything into 3/3s. So the longer that Helix can keep his stuff on the board, the more this Tarim isn't particularly useful. And also Helix there did pause temporarily. He's trying to work out, do I think there's a consecration in this deck? He didn't see one in game 1, so he has to go with no. A lot of the old aggro paladins only had room for 1 or 0. He's going right the way back to the days of the... There's the discard answer, by the way. And going right the way back to the days of Secret Paladin. You tended not to play 2 consecrations anyway.
So now Helix is in this really uncomfortable spot where he's got his Clutch Mother. He can wait a turn. He can Doom Guard to guarantee that he gets that discard, starts to power that up. For anyone that doesn't actually know, the Clutch Mother here, every time it's discarded, gains an extra 2/2 and goes back to your hand. It's a 2 mana 2/2 by default, right, and then will continue to stack similarly to Van Cleef, except it's when it's discarded instead of when the other cards are played. Now, unfortunately, with that line of play, you basically concede the board entirely.
Yeah, you have to be careful. So making a 2/2 here, in some circumstances, Helix is thinking for so long because it's so useful. It challenges the 4/2. It gives him a chance to kill that Murloc. But obviously you can play a 4/4 in 2 turns' time. But there used to be a card, Shade of Naxxramas, which had stealth and got bigger every turn. And bad players would sit there and let it just get gigantic and die as an 8/8 stealth minion. And I've seen players with the Clutch Mother do very similar things. They keep it in their hand, make it into a 10/10, and they die. Helix not falling into that trap. He just played it as a 2/2. I don't think he could quite decide what he wanted to do about that board there, but he's put the 1 damage onto the War Leader, which means that the Clutch Mother is facing off against both of these.
Yeah, it meant that the Clutch Mother would be able to trade evenly with whatever minion, but unfortunately, with a weapon in hand, that means Jambre is able to just well and truly control this board. Now, dropping down that Redemption as well. If either of these Murlocs dies, they will be regenerated. Doomguard is going to drop, try and gain some semblance of control, but little does he know he won't actually do anything to that War Leader.
And that's got to go all the way back to the Hydrologist turn when Jambre decided to pick the Redemption. He's obviously played this deck a lot. What would we expect? Less from the Paladin Master. He knew that at some point down the line, that Redemption was going to basically render one of Helix's turns impossible. Wind Fury would be disgraceful behaviour.
This is going to be... Could have been beautiful. Isn't going to go for anything crazy. Does obviously go for the trade, which is, you know, the correct decision to make. Argus in hand, but nothing to play it with.
And that Redemption, that decision that Jambre made before he had the War Lead on the table, though it was in his hand, is going to almost certainly win him this game. Helix is going to throw out as much as he can to not die, but I think there's 1 off-lethal here? 2 off-lethal, but it's going to stop Helix from being able to tap as well if he wants to go face with a True Silver, which he should, because stopping your opponent from tapping is huge when they're desperate.
An eye for an eye, just to try and guarantee a kill, even if he loses control of the board at this stage.
Right.
And it's just going to keep on dropping extra Murlocs. And that's the thing about this hero power in conjunction with the War Leader. A 2 mana 3/2 every single turn. And just going to slam that damage into face. No way back here for Helixfossil at this stage. He can drop these just to get a taunt, but it's not going to save him. And he's well aware of that. 2-1 now to Jambre in very quick fashion as well.
Yeah, the Murloc Paladin, Jambre again winning with Paladin in an important tournament.
Yeah.
I don't know how he does it.
I don't know, but he always does.
He does pull out the Paladin when the chips are down, and it does him the world of good. I think the UK is in safe hands with his Paladin. They do have to play all 9 classes in the next tournament.
So now I believe we have Rogue remaining for Jambre. I believe is correct. I think the Rogue was
banned, actually.
Wasn't it? His Warrior was banned. Oh, no. Sorry,
my notes are the same as yours at this point in the evening.
Yeah, so he's actually got Warrior here.
Because I was confused earlier when I said about the Crab being the deck and then banning Warrior, but that's because I just wanted to mislead you and make you sound like you were wrong.
Yeah, it was his Rogue that was banned. He's bringing the Warrior. He's got through. We are going to see this Face Hunter once again. The old Pirate Warrior thing where you draw the patches.
Was that you doing a pirate impression?
Yeah, it was kind of half pirate, half, I don't know, devastated person one. Devastated person one. You know, that sound effect you get on those keyboards that you play in school.
Making noises along the lines of devastated person. This Patches is going to eat a whole bunch of crab. Going to just die horribly. Not only is it the Patches, but it is just now rip.
And that's something that a Fiery War Axe is just not going to be able to deal with on its own. And I think Jambre just going to already... Actually, no, is going to try and trade into this one.
Yeah, but Divine Shield or something like that here, or even Wind Fury, or plus... All of these things aren't ideal, but they're all going to do a whole bunch of damage for one turn.
I feel like Wind Fury is the way forward right here. It's already
actually
done. Although 3 attack also...
3 attacks more because the weapon's going to go back into it.
Yeah, you get the same attack this turn, but then you also get a bonus 3 when the weapon hits it, if the weapon hits it.
Bonus 3 damage. It's a difficult decision from where he sat, though. Wind Fury might feel like the safer option for where he is sat. It guarantees that damage goes through, but I feel like plus 3 attack just does so much damage to the face and sets up your hero power for the rest of the game. Because even though the Warrior can use its hero power to gain that armor, if they're doing that, they're just not developing this board. Okay, Helix goes for the Wind Fury.
Yeah, I can certainly understand the decision. Also, it means that he doesn't just ignore that minion and drop this taunt that we can see in his hand. Obviously, he doesn't know about it, but Dread Corsair is a very common card to have in a Pirate Warrior deck. But already, this is looking like a scary start for Jambre, as the board is just going to be filled up once again by Helixfossil.
Yeah, and I'm looking at like down the line here on turn 5 when Helix plays the Rhino, that it gets hit with an Arcanite Reaper. And if that gets hit with an Arcanite Reaper, I don't see how Jambre does enough damage to win this game in time. Because that 5 needs to go face. If it doesn't go face, you get hit with a Savannah High Main and lose. So I think that Helix is in a really good spot here, and Jambre is going to need to get out of this with taunts and with some cunning play somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I'm not sure what cunning play is available to actually pull himself out of this deficit specifically. He's going to continue to trade away in this scenario,
which is always a sign that the Warrior is having a bad time.
Yeah, if you've got the Pirate Warrior to be on the defensive, to be the one... Oh, goodness. The Dispatch Kodo arrives on the scene, finishes off the Corcoran. Jambre trying to set up the board so the favourable trades go his way, so that the 3-2 has to trade on in, but just isn't going to happen in the end. And now, an awful hand to be dealing with as well. It's just going to go for the upgrade immediately.
Yeah, and this one is going to conclude very shortly. I think Jambre will give it up as soon as he sees this Rhino. He's not one of these guys who tends to play it out when the writing's on the wall. He will probably just move on with his life. He'll probably look at his top deck to make sure there's no surprise card he forgot about in his deck.
That magical Leroy that happens to deal 29 damage.
And heal yourself for 13 along the way.
It's going to stay on the board, but as we can see, this one is all but over. The Rhino is down, Savannah's in hand. This is going to be game, so Helixfossil evening up this series right now, as he's going to make it 2-2. And This has been, despite the fact we've had full 4 games so far, this has been a lightning fast series.
It sure has, and this is it. We've got one game of Hearthstone to kick one of these guys out of the Premiership, and the other one's going to have a decent chance of getting through. If they go to 1 and 2, you've only got to win 2 more of your games in a row. It sounds impossible, but when you get to that 1 and 2 instead of 0 and 2, you've actually got a decent chance. And then we're going to send somebody home. I mean, they're already home, but we're going to really send them home.
So now we have the question of Pirate Warrior versus Zoolock. This is going to be an interesting matchup. Both of them very heavily dependent on kind of curving well and just getting maximum mana efficiency. But also with the current version of Zoo, where you've got a lot of discard, we already saw Clutch Mothers in there. A lot of it can be dependent on how well Helix is actually able to play these hands and make sure that he's discarding the right cards and that he's putting himself in the best positions to discard the right cards.
Right, and this is a really good start to do that. He's got Possessed Villager, which will take down 2 1-health pirates. He's got the Soulfire, which will deal with whatever turn 3 drop Jambre wants to drop on him. He's got a Taunt as well. But what he hasn't got, and what he'd really like, and we haven't seen it, is the Fellhound. If he draws the Fellhound, this game could be over. The other problem at the moment is for Jambre, he hasn't actually drawn a thing.
He has got the Fiery War Axe to try and take control of the board just a little bit here, but he hasn't got much in terms of board presence. Doesn't have any of those early pirates, those 1-drops to get himself into this game, and the Direwolf Alpha always feels nice to drop. Makes that 1-1 just feel a little bit more powerful.
And this is where that Soulfire is going to come into play, and it's a good job for Jambre that he's drawn another 4-health minion. Soulfire is going to take out the first one most likely, and at least the second one will stick. This is definitely not over yet. Helix is got a fairly sticky board, but Jambre has got quite a lot of stuff to start fighting back. Cork on Elite on turn 4 will be very handy as well.
Yeah, isn't going to play around a Soulfire here, just goes for the Frothing Berserker, but I do agree with that decision in that, first of all, you're... the Malcazar's
I think you just spam this lot. I think you just go Malcazar's Imp, Flame Imp, Soulfire, give up on the fact that Councilman's really good, draw a new card for next turn, you'll draw a card at the start of next turn, and your board is... It's kind of overwhelming even though it's small, just because a 1-3 actually faces off so well, and that is the perfect draw, as long as he draws something to play next turn, which most of his deck will do. He'll be looking for a Pterodax.
So Corcoran down on board just to try and contest this one. Knife Juggler, not the end of the world.
He can't really tap though.
No.
So one play he could do here is Knife Juggler and bump in the Villager and shut his eyes. If the Villager then wins the 50-50, it kills the 4-2. But he's going to play sensibly and trade in the 3-2 because he's not an idiot like me. Off he goes.
Yeah, that's one of those plays where it's like, if you're a gambling man, this is a potentially incredible play, but in the real world, the odds are pretty slim that it ever works out. Well, they're not slim, they're exactly 50-50, but is 50-50 really the odds you want to take? Now, Doomguard available this turn. Would have to discard Argus and Knife Juggler, both very powerful cards in this deck.
Yeah, his other choice would be to maybe play the Defender of Argus and take the free kill on the patches. You're risking eating a whole bunch of damage, but you are on 24. Yeah, he goes for the option that you default to if you're not sure what to do with Zoo. Clear the board, live to fight another day.
Yeah, board control, kind of the mantra of Zoo Warlock. A lot of heroic strikes right here in the hand of Jambre. He has a huge amount of direct damage available right now. Will armor up as well. And we're in this awkward situation for Zoo, especially against a Pirate Warrior, where you have to start tapping every single turn, which, when you're against a deck with so much direct damage, is a dangerous situation.
Yeah, and Jambre is in a good spot here. He's got he's got so much damage in hand. That's 18 damage in hand. He can win in 2 turns from here. Helix has already got rid of a 1-3, sorry, a Void Walker, and he's already got rid of a...
He saw the
Defender of Argus as well.
We just saw the Defender of Argus get discarded last turn. I feel like you just drop the Arcanite and Heroic Strike and just say, you don't have another taunt.
So
used, has he used 2 Void Walkers already, or just the 1? I feel like the other Void Walker was in the previous game.
Yeah,
Isn't going to go for it.
Pressure. Maybe he's scared of the Fellhound and he's going to keep these strikes back in case a Fellhound comes down. We haven't seen one yet from Helix. He could definitely do with one about precisely now. You can play this Dark Librarian. He's going to have to tap, I feel. And he knows when Pirates does nothing on turn 7, he knows the sort of things that are in hand, and the sort of things that are in hand are nasties.
That is a very nice turn of events for Helix. He's able to get the double discard onto his Clutch Mother and drop that 6/6 on the board. He finally has some semblance of presence here. But with an upgrade there as well, that is going to be a huge chunk. 10 per turn coming through here from Jambre.
He has lethal
Helix.
next turn. Can
He doesn't
Helix
actually go with
draw a taunt? If he,
He wanted to armor up. He wanted to make sure that he's in the game. No taunt comes out immediately. Life tap.
he can't see it coming. I don't think he will tap because that taps into Leroy. If he taps it down to 12, he'll be playing into Leroy Jenkins. He knows those 2 cards have been in hand for the whole game. He can't tap here, I don't think.
He shouldn't attack here because that activates Mortal Strike as well. It makes it even more likely that he drops down here, but I think he's just decided...
It sets up next turn lethal, though, with a Soulfire, so I feel he has to do it. He's torn. He knows he's in trouble here. He knows the writing's on the wall, seeing this heroic strike. And Jambre sneaks through 3-2, and the champion is not dead yet.
He's made it back in. He was reeling from the punches, but Jambre gets the KO, wins it out 3-2 in that matchup. And what a game that was as well. 14 damage from face right there from Jambre, managing to get the double heroic strike in, and does manage to take the series in the end.